All right.
Hello, I'm here with Doug to talk about Bye QRadar. It is Friday, May 21, 2024.
Wait, what day?
May 21. Sorry, Tuesday, May
Yeah,
20.
let's try Tuesday, Sam. There
Okay,
we go.
good point. All
All
right.
right.
Anyway, yeah, details. So,
Details. Yeah.
so I was surprised to read IBM has been pushing QRadar, and I've always heard of QRadar as like the number one SIEM solution, even ahead of Splunk. And I've seen it in action. That's very impressive. But suddenly, IBM has sold QRadar to Palo Alto and
Really?
announced that there is, and a typical announcement you hear after any merger, like, well, we promised that we'll continue to provide support and stuff, but we don't really know how that's going to work or for how long that's going to go. Just the kind of, this is the whole purpose of IBM is they would never, ever do this to you. The rule for decades have been you'll never get fired for buying IBM because they will never pull the rug out from under you and abandon your products. They will always take care of you. And now they have broken that. And so
Wow.
what they're trying to do is migrate QRadar to the cloud instead of having it all done on premise, which is the main way it's done now. And they decided to push that through early parts of this year and then suddenly said, oh, to hell with it. Moving to the cloud is too much bother. We're just going to sell it to Palo Alto and you're going to have to migrate to XSIAM, which I guess is QRadar's comparable product. So this is sort of shocking everybody.
Wow.
I know.
So I've worked for companies that have used QRadar.
Yeah.
And just so we kind of review, a SIM is a security information and event manager. So it's sort of, think of it as a log file collector, alerts in a log file
And QRadar is
coagulant.
wonderful. When I saw it a few years ago, it was so much better
Yeah.
than others. Instead of having like impenetrable log files go by, it would just say, you just experienced a DOS attack of this type from here. It would totally analyze it using AI
Oh,
and give you like a nice
yeah.
printout of exactly what's happening.
Interesting.
But it cost
So,
$1 million at that time.
yeah, can you think, I'm just curious, can you think of another IBM product that's been spun off or sold?
Never. And I'm
Yeah.
surprised they said QRadar is actually number 3 behind Splunk. But still,
Huh.
it's really big. Um, so
Yeah.
I think this is good news for Splunk and bad news for IBM.
Well, good news for IBM. They sold their product and right made
Well,
hopefully they made some money. They didn't give it away.
apparently they're going to have a partner with Palo Alto. I don't know exactly what it means. I think we're going to
Yeah.
have to wait to find out what it actually means. But I'm glad I've been teaching Splunk for a long time, and I guess I'm not wasting people's time on that because Splunk has a very good free version, and QRadar has no free version worth a damn. So I can't teach,
Yeah.
but I could teach Splunk.
Yeah. So Splunk is very widely used. It's very expensive, or it's on the expensive side.
So QRadar is
And
also very expensive.
yeah, it's an IBM product that should go along with the territory.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of companies that just can't wait to get rid of Splunk, but Splunk is good.
QRadar seems more luxurious.
Yeah.
Splunk,
Yeah.
you have to like be trained to run it. That's what I do. It's like Cisco, you need training to run it.
Yeah. So Splunk is more of akin to a programming language.
Yeah.
I mean, there's a lot of programming or not
It's a database.
script writing. Yeah.
You need to learn DBA, which is like SQL
Yeah.
programming to do it. And you need
Yeah.
to learn
Yeah.
a lot about what the logs really are doing inside. Yeah, it's complicated to operate. I can see how adding like an AI front end to do that for you would be a great step forward. And maybe Splunk will do that now that QRadar has stepped out of the
Yeah.
competition.
Interesting. And
Yeah.
it's also interesting that Palo Alto is gone down this path.
I guess Palo Alto has had their comparable product I never heard of called XSIAM. So I guess they've had one, but it
Oh,
certainly hasn't been a top one.
yeah, I'm not familiar with it. I've never heard of it.
No.
Obviously, for many people, Palo Alto firewalls for, gosh, probably 10 years have
Oh yeah.
been the go-to product. Yeah, if not longer.
Yeah, the firewalls. Yeah, but I never heard of them doing SIEM.
Yeah, I bet, these companies, they have additional products that
Yeah.
they're not known for. So, but it's interesting they're going down this path. We mentioned last time we talked about zero trust network architecture.
Right.
Palo Alto is kind of going in that path, but they're a hardware company and they sell hardware. That's what they know is hardware. And transitioning to the cloud is kind of interesting.
Yeah, well, it looks like every
So,
transition to the cloud. I think everybody has.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Everybody has to have a cloud presence. Something if you're going to be in business in the future.
Splunk has a cloud offering too.
Yeah. But they're a software company.
But, but,
So,
but I mean, now I'm working at industries with regulatory compliance. It's a bizarre idea to send your network traffic up to somebody else's cloud and trust them with all that. I mean, I guess some companies can do that, but I think it'll never be too popular.
well, yeah, but then you have government clouds and
Oh yeah.
right, you're sharing the risk and the mitigation.
Well,
It's
yeah, okay. They'd have to have a special, more
yeah,
secure cloud. Yeah, okay.
yeah. And I have worked with companies where there's data that absolutely will not touch the cloud.
That's where I am now.
And yeah,
They say a lot of people run QRadar on premises. I assume for that reason, because they
yeah,
don't want to be sending all their events up to the cloud.
yeah. All right. Well, we could talk about architecture or the cloud, but yeah, that's for another topic. All right. So I've got one here.
Yep.
Sam, you know what happened on May 22nd, 2010?
Well, I do, but only because I saw this link.
Ah, okay.
I would never have known
So
otherwise.
yeah, I would never have known this either. But in Florida, a man bought the first Papa John's pizza. And do you know what he paid? He paid in Bitcoins. This is what's so special
That was not the
about,
first Papa John's pizza. It was the
no,
first
no,
transaction.
pardon me.
Yeah,
First Papa John's pizza, first transaction
right,
with a Bitcoin
right.
or using Bitcoins. And he worked with somebody, I believe, in England who said, look, I'll help you do it. He had the Bitcoins. He gave the guy in England the Bitcoins who ordered the pizza. And so he got two pizzas delivered, one for now, one for later.
Mhm.
Any idea what he paid?
10,000 Bitcoins.
Yeah, 10,000 Bitcoins. But here's the real question. What are those 10,000 Bitcoins worth today? And by the way, he overpaid for the pizzas by about $10.
Yeah,
So at the time, 10,000 Bitcoins was worth in the neighborhood of $40.
right. And
And
now,
if you had those 10,000 Bitcoins today, you wouldn't be talking to me, would you?
well, I wondered about this. My I used to work for a guy who was like a banking type person. He would go around and hand out lottery tickets whenever the pot went above like $100 million or something. And he
Yeah.
came to my desk and I was working away on my stuff and he handed me a lottery ticket and he said, if this hits, I won't see you tomorrow. And I said, what are you talking about? I got customers, I got clients waiting for stuff. It wouldn't affect me at all. And he looked at me and said, what's wrong with you? And I looked at him and said, what's wrong with you? My idealism did not match his ruthless money grubbing capitalism. We were like the opposites.
I hear you. So here's the answer. Those 10,000 Bitcoins today would be roughly about 700 million. So you'd be on your way to being a billionaire.
I know.
You could be friends, rub elbows with Elon Musk and
I know.
Bezos.
I know this is why I totally don't want it. I mean, if I had that kind of money, it would just ruin my life. I mean,
Yeah.
I I just
So,
feel like a ton of bricks just landing on my head. What the hell would I do with myself if I had $1 billion?
yeah. Sam, just kind of a tangent to this. I know of probably at least half a dozen people who've got Bitcoins on hard drives or they've got Bitcoins and wallets on hard drives
Yeah.
that they forgot the passwords to
Oh yeah.
that are worth in the, tens of thousands, if not hundreds of millions of dollars or tens of millions of
Well,
dollars.
Joe Grand did break into one of those. It can be done. There are quite a few, at least some of those wallets have power glitch flaws. And there's a special piece of hardware you buy that causes a
Really?
power spike during boot up. And you can find a certain number of nanoseconds after boot up, you cause a power spike, you crash the OS, and the key is in memory. That's one
Interesting.
common hardware hacking technique. There's people that hardware hack into Bitcoin wallets. It can be done.
So it
And
can be done.
they will do it for a percentage of the proceeds, or you can learn how to do it. It's one of the DEF CON activities, hardware hacking.
Oh, it is.
It's
But
not
not Bitcoin.
not Bitcoin in particular, but hardware hacking
Yeah.
is a big thing there, and the whole of making badges and everything. It's very likely that at some point during boot up, it mishandles the key and puts it in RAM.
Yeah. Okay. That would make sense. So anyway, to close out this story here, May 22nd has unofficially been dubbed Bitcoin Pizza Day.
Well, that's as good as the others. All right.
And that's as good as my wife reminded me that the 20th of May, do you know what that is?
I don't.
It was dubbed Eliza Doolittle Day in the song from My Fair Lady.
Oh, did they mention it in
So
the song or something?
yeah, it's part of the song.
Well, I know May the 4th for the Star Wars Day.
Yeah. Yeah. Boy, a lot of yeah. And we got the Ides of May. We could throw that in there too. Lot. Am I right on that? Or is that the
I think
Ides
the
of
Ides is the
March?
15th of anything.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, yeah.
The Ides of March is when Caesar was killed.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. I'm off a couple months.
Yeah.
Anyway, kind of interesting couple of events in May. All right, what else you got for us today?
I got
You
more.
got a good one?
I got more silly names. There
All
is
right.
vulnerability in something called Fluent Bit, which I never heard of, but it is apparently like Log4j. It is the logging engine used by all major cloud providers. And they found a vulnerability which they named Linguistic Lumberjack. And it's a heap buffer overflow and they have a denial of service exploit that will freeze the cloud providers, and they claim under certain conditions it can be improved to remote code execution. So everybody has to update their Fluent Bit, and it applies to all the cloud providers, Amazon, Azure, and everything.
So let me make sure I understand this. A hacker, I'm a customer of Amazon,
Right.
Azure, IBM, one of the cloud providers.
Yep.
They're all using the same logging engine, if you will.
Yep. Apparently it's the best logging engine.
Okay. And somebody in North Korea, Russia, China, pick your favorite state actor, can attack the cloud.
Yeah.
And are they
Tenable put out a proof of concept. All you have to do is execute a curl command to send a particular packet HTTP request to it, and apparently that will crash it.
And so is that for specifically, would that be for my company, or is that in general? Or do you know? The article say.
It looks like you send it to one endpoint, so I guess you can crash one cloud server.
Okay. And so I would, if I were that bad actor, I would have access to your log files.
Well,
sorry.
Actually, that's a good point. You would be able to crash the server, and you're actually able to retrieve some memory, sort of like that one a couple years, 10 years ago, Heartbleed. But they say the memory is unlikely to contain secrets, although that's possible. So it's not right now. The main risk is denial of service. There's a small risk of exposure of secrets and even smaller risk of remote code execution. But of course, all the cloud providers have to do is update to the latest version. And I assume they will all scramble and do that pretty fast.
We hope.
Yeah.
We hope.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
So that's a good one. You got another one for us, or you want me to go?
Let's go back to you, and then I'll come back to me with.
Yeah. All right. So Sam, you got a cool 16,000 laying in the bank there someplace?
Not for this purpose.
No. Okay. So if you did, you could go out and buy a 4-foot tall humanoid robot.
Yep.
Not quite sure what you'd do with it, but
this is like you need the killer app. You made this.
Yeah.
Now what? Like Bitcoin. You made this thing. Now what? Well, you can buy a pizza. Well, I had other ways to buy a pizza. What the hell is a 4-foot robot going to do for me? Is it going to do my dishes or vacuum the floor or something?
So Sam, just as I'm thinking through this talking to you, I got a couple chores the robot could do. I could put on Vision Pro glasses, hypothetically, right? could I not put on Vision Pro glasses and have it walk to the store and buy me a quart of ice cream and walk back?
I mean, use it like a drone.
Yeah, walking drone.
I guess you could go disarm a bomb with it. I know they do that.
No, no, no. I mean, just something practical. I don't
That's
have bombs
practical.
laying around.
That's
But go to the store, right? I could have Vision Pro glasses.
I guess.
I'm assuming it's got a camera, and I could watch it walk to the store and interact with the person at the store, pay, and then bring back my quart of milk or whatever I want.
Maybe. Yeah.
Maybe. Okay.
But if it doesn't do that
So
autonomously, it seems like it's not worth it.
yeah, yeah. Well, yeah, but you could go for a walk without going for a walk.
Anyway, it exists, and we'll see if
Wait. So I got another one. A
Yeah.
tangent of this.
Yeah.
Could it not go into a bank and rob a bank?
Well, that's like defusing a bomb. You could send it somewhere dangerous. I mean, I thought, remember a few years ago, there was a
Yeah.
guy around here, I think up in Mountain View or something. He or Concord. There was a sniper hiding behind the car shooting at the cops. So he took their bomb disarming robot and stuck a hand grenade on it and drove it back there and blew the guy up. And they said, "You abused that robot." And he said, "No, I used it for exactly what it's for. I resolved
Yeah.
a difficult, dangerous situation without putting my officers at risk. That's what it's for."
I mean, it's true, right? But I could see this. It's I don't know. But if you rob a bank and you got the money, what's the robot going to do with the money? Now you need to
It's
have a
going to wheel
drone
back
come
to your
in.
house at 2 miles an hour with a cop car following it.
The O.J. Simpson going down the freeway.
That's right.
But I guess you could have a drone come by and pick it up.
I guess you could. I know in like you say, I think vacuuming your floor is probably the most practical
Yeah.
so far. And we already have Roombas that are better at that.
Or have a conversation with it.
Yeah.
All right, enough of that. What else do you have for
I
us
got a
this
couple
morning?
Microsoft things.
Okay.
Microsoft is announcing the new Windows 11 features and a whole bunch of new security features. They're going to have secured core PCs for consumers, which apparently they've had for business. And that apparently protects the firmware and the boot up process more using something called Microsoft Pluton security processor, which is a chip to cloud technology. So this sounds like essentially they're duplicating the iPhone boot up process, where it verifies the heart of the kernel of the operating system with a certificate, a real certificate, digital certificate from Apple, verifying, which is what Microsoft tried to do with Windows 8 on their ARM years ago. They're coming back to that again.
So in order to correct me, but in order to boot, do you need to have internet access?
Well, I think not in either case because it does cache something. Logically, it would, but apparently, no, it can build them, it can boot without internet access. So they must have some solution for that. You're right, but that was my
Yeah.
first too, and I don't quite know how that works.
Yeah. So sort of if we talk through this, what happens is the computer starts to boot up. It loads the kernel, if you
Yep.
will, or part
Yeah.
of the operating system.
Right, and it verifies that it is not altered, like it can't be protected by rootkit or anything with a certificate.
So, with a certificate, and let's say this is the first time we're booting up the computer,
Yeah.
it would need internet access to verify the certificate with Microsoft.
Well, I know Apple's don't. You don't need
Oh, they don't.
first boot them up. So I think what happens is you have to trust the first time it boots up that it's not already infected. It's only going to be able to detect an infection that comes in after that.
Okay.
I think there's no other way you could do it, although I'm just guessing. But I think that's all you could. It's like an SSH connection. The first time you connect, it shows you a fingerprint and says, "Is this the right UI?" Because I have no way to know right now. Not until you
if you
once. Yeah.
Yeah, if you're using a program like Putty, something like
Right.
that, you get the fingerprint. Yeah.
Right.
But then there's the potential for an attack there.
Oh yeah, you could. Well, I mean, if the operating system is compromised before you ever turn it on, then I think you're hosed.
Right,
Nothing
right.
to save you then. The only thing, but the realistic threat model is it comes to you shipped from the factory with an appropriate OS, and then later on you get it infected.
So are these, so these are computers with the OS already installed. It's not my installation.
Well, I don't know that. I know that is
Okay,
the problem with iPhones, is that it's hard. You can't like put Linux on there or anything easily. You have to defeat these security features, and that was the problem with the Windows 8 on ARM. They said you won't be able to run any other OS except the official one from Microsoft, unless you
yeah.
turn this off. And I think that's
And
true here.
okay, and how does this contrast with BitLocker?
Well, BitLocker is just encryption after it's booted up. This is protecting the boot up process.
Got it.
And
Okay.
that's, and by the way, they do have another layer of user file encryption, again, imitating Apple. They're going to have another layer of encryption on your documents later. Apple has many layers of encryption.
Yeah.
And then another thing they have, they're going to deprecate NTLM in the second half of this year. So, and there's no more explanation. I don't know quite what they mean. I I don't know if they mean the NTLM hashes to store passwords. I think they probably mean NTLM authentication over the network, which is in fact pretty
Yeah.
old and not used that much anymore, and they probably could deprecate that.
Yeah. I know they deprecated, I believe, version 1, and for
Okay.
legacy purposes, they had to come, yeah,
And now it's
version 2.
NTLM v2. So I think they probably should have said we're going to deprecate NTLM v2. Then I would understand what they're saying.
Yeah. And I think wasn't NTLM hashing part of the pass the hash
It is.
attack? Yeah.
I don't think they're going to, that's true. That might help prevent that, maybe. We have to see what they do.
Well,
What they're pushing is Windows Hello and passkeys, the alternative to passwords. Uh,
yeah.
and I don't think they're requiring them, but I think they would like to, but they're not going to do that in 2024.
Yeah, yeah. I think we're slowly moving in that direction, and it seems to me deprecating NTLM version 2 is way overdue.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's not going to be missed. And they have something called Smart App Control, which will run AI on your device if it has the proper AI processor, and then it will use AI to decide whether the app is safe when you run an app. So that sounds possibly
Uh,
useful, possibly a disaster. But you want to know what's really a disaster is
oh, yes, do tell, Sam, do tell.
this is a new Microsoft feature called Recall, which is going to use AI to take a picture of your screen every 3 seconds and keep a record of everything you've been doing on your machine. So you can roll back to what was I doing a month ago and play a video of what you were doing a month ago. Uh, This is like,
What?
I know. I mean, what a feature that nobody asked for that has obvious disastrous consequences. Why they said, oh, it's all encrypted and stored locally. Nobody will see it but you. And I'm like, who wants this? Do you want this? You could put a video camera in your house and record everything you do. Why would you do that?
So, yeah, why would you do it? But what about the disk space?
They claim I guess it uses some portion of the disk space and only goes back that far or something. It reminds me of when Vista came out, they announced a bunch of stupid features like this. One of the most hilarious ones in Vista was they said, you're in an office and there's 10 other PCs in there, and most of them are not doing anything with all that RAM. So we could give you more RAM by using the RAM in the other PCs on your LAN. I said, this is awesome. I don't even need to hack in your machine. You're just going to take your data and put it right on my machine for me. Wow. And that never happened. They announced that, but some sanity prevailed before they actually shipped Vista. They never even tried to do that. And I hope the same thing will do this here. Like, are you out of your mind? What is the need for this thing? And how does that compare to the obvious risk of it?
Yeah, Microsoft does have a product called PSR, or Problem Steps Recorder.
Right, right.
And
You
that
refuse to
takes,
turn on, and then it records what you do.
yeah, yeah. And I've used it. I'm not too impressed by the tool, but
It wasn't perfect, but at least it made some sense. You say,
yeah,
like, when you do a vulnerability report, you have to give them step by step how to reproduce it, and very probably 3 times out of 4 The explanation is not clear enough, and all you get is we can't reproduce the problem. So if you would just record what you did, especially since you
Yeah.
cannot speak English, it would be nice to just record what you did, and then we can see what you did.
Yeah. All right. Do you have another one for us?
No, that's it. That's the excitement.
I got one that's kind of hitting the news here a little bit, especially in the Bay Area.
Mhm.
But this is unique to California in that we have a bill that goes into effect. So I guess it becomes law. And I believe it's July 1st that prohibits the charging of service fees or mandatory tips on restaurant bills and any other service that's being provided. So a lot of people have been complaining because when you go out to dinner, you look at the price on the menu and you have a meal there for $20 and you get the bill and there's all of a sudden a 10%, 20%, 30% surcharge, and it goes under the name of service fee, healthcare, what do they call it? Quality healthcare for employees. A lot of times, this money is going into the pocket of the owner of the restaurant, and this is in addition to fees. So it's really should be part of the cost of the food, and it's essentially it's a tip on a tip, if you will, or a double tipping.
I haven't seen that anywhere I go. But
Oh, I've seen it. I've seen it. I can tell you in the East Bay, I've seen it a couple places. My wife went to get a sandwich, and the sandwich turned out to be, I think, $30, but the sandwich was initially $15. And there was a service fee, a processing fee, and a mandatory tip.
this
And
sounds
she
like
walked out.
this sounds like Joe Biden's junk feeds.
Yeah, it is. This is, yeah. And what I've been doing a little bit of research on is, does this apply to hotels and resort fees? Because that's another one.
Those
And I'm sure you've stayed at hotels and they say, "Oh, we're a resort." They're not a resort. And what do you get for the $40 resort fee? A 25-cent bottle of water. And not even a big one. You get the smaller one. And, I've complained and there's nothing really you can do. But if you look, they used to hide the charge when you'd book like with Expedia or Kayak or whatever. And, or even on the hotel's website, the prices would be on the right side, but then the resort fee would be in, 10 point on the left-hand side of the screen. And so you wouldn't realize there's a resort fee till you checked out. So the two questions that I'm researching right now is, one, is a hotel, is that providing a service? So is that covered under the law? Because I need to read it again, but specifically it says services and no additional fees may be charged. So I'm not a lawyer, but I'm looking this up. And under the Uniform Building Code, I believe from what I've read that a hotel is providing a service, meaning lodging is considered a service. So much like food is a service. So it's okay. Now, the other question that I think is kind of an interesting one is, okay, I'm in California. So if you're a hotel in another state, do you have to have a separate web page for California that includes those fees? And I'll pick on specifically Las Vegas,
Yeah.
Reno, Nevada, Reno, Las Vegas, because they're notorious for charging resort fees. And I would argue that they are, okay, resorts. Or, Hawaii is another one where they have resort fees. So those are, I would argue those are resorts. But here I am in California. I'm signing, correct me if I'm wrong and tell me if you don't agree, but aren't I signing the contract in California? Or entering into the contract? I'm making payment.
Yeah, I would think so. You're probably right. California law probably applies there.
Yeah. So, again, it's going to be interesting to see. And by the way, this also applies to tickets. So there was a fiasco with the Taylor Swift concert tickets and charges and,
Those things.
you know, yeah. So,
There's all
yeah, you know,
scalping and everything too.
this doesn't, yeah, I mean, I'm sure it applies to scalping as well, but that's not the intent of the law. And I think scalping technically is illegal. Oh, you're not sure. Okay. So I'm not,
Terms of service.
yeah, you're right. It violates the terms of service because I think you can't resell tickets but people do.
Yeah.
So I'm not going down there. I think it's an interesting question legally. And I think because it's like when California came up with the smog laws, the other 49 states said, "Phooey, we're not doing that." But California was such a big market, and then a couple other states came on board.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden, the car companies would have to start making different models for different states.
Yeah.
And the car companies gave up and said, okay, California is the most stringent. We'll make them all to California standards.
Well, you know, these may seem like small issues, but when I was a database analyst, I made my living off of California's overtime law. I was the guy that would calculate how much overtime you owed people that you made work more than 40 hours without paying them overtime. There's a strict law for that. And there was a widespread practice of creating a position called assistant manager, where you had to do all the work, but you were now exempt from overtime. And that's illegal. And I was the guy that did the spreadsheets for a bunch of those cases.
So interesting. All right. So that's it for me. I'm going to follow up on the story because I think it's an interesting one. And it's going to be interesting to see now that California has implemented this, if this is going to spread to other states.
I think there'll be a federal version. Joe Biden's talking about his junk fees. That seems like the same issue.
Yeah, but you know, he's not may not be in office a year from now.
Well, it's looking quite likely that he won't be in office. Trump seems to be winning in the polls.
Yeah.
It's pretty incredible. He might actually win from a prison cell. This is a crazy time.
But then can he pardon himself?
No, it's a state crime. That's why what's apparently the weakest and least important case is the one that went ahead because it was a state crime and all these tricks couldn't impede it.
Well, you know, it's not the first time that we have not had a government official running or being in office from a prison or a jail cell.
Oh, it happened.
Yeah. Chicago. The one I recall, I believe, is Boston, and it was Curley, the mayor, and he moved his desk into this jail cell.
Yeah, but
and conducted business.
You'd like to think that the most powerful person on earth running the U.S. military would be a little more competent and dignified and professional than that, but it's a disturbing time that such an important office is being thrown around in such a cavalier, sloppy manner.
Yeah, I would agree. All right, Sam, that's it for me.
Yep, we'll have another one of these on Tuesday.
Yep.
Okay.
Good.